Well, everybody, welcome back. I think today we're going to take the orange truck and try and tackle the dashboard. So let's bring you guys inside here real quick, and we'll show you what we got to do. Close, right? There we go. I'd like to take and get this all situated because the lights in here, for starters, are a little dim, and then some of them don't come on. So I need to find out if it's a matter of the bulbs needing replaced or if they're just bad connections. I also want to take and clean this up. Go ahead and be careful with that. I don't know if you guys can see that, but that's awfully faded and swirly, a little dusty, a little scratched. So we'll get that tackled. I'll show you guys how I do that as far as polishing the plastic out. And then when we put it back on, after we get all this stuff dusted out and cleaned, the gauges should look a lot more visible like that, which will be fantastic. I don't hate that at all. So we'll go ahead and get this pulled out of here. Hopefully I don't have any issues with that. Now it's really brittle old plastic, so you got to be careful. Oh no, let's see here. What's going on? If you guys are looking to try and do this by yourselves at home, it's really not that difficult. There's a lot of screws, so mainly just make sure you're pulling all your screws out. I've gone ahead and pulled all the screws out of here just so you guys can see how it comes apart if you don't know. Okay. And then you just gotta wiggle it and be careful wiggling it. I feel like how brittle these are is directly in relation to how badly you don't want them to break. If you don't want it to break, it's extraordinarily brittle. But if you don't really care, then I feel like it'll just hold on forever. Let's see. I have to disconnect. Oh! The speedo cable, it looks like, and the oil pressure line. So I'm going to see about getting that done. I got the speedometer. All right. Well, we got the cluster out, and I wasn't able to get that line off, but I think I might be able to. I'm looking at it here, and there's a nut on the inside of there that I think might disconnect that piece. So I may just have to get a new oil pressure line, which probably won't be too hard, or at least get that fitting off and just re-stab it in there. But that's a problem for a different time. I know the oil pressure on the truck's good. I don't plan on having to keep an eye on it in the near future either, so I'm not too stressed about that. Got the plastic off. We'll definitely be getting rid of some of that haziness and getting it cleaned up. I'm going to wash this and see how clean it comes. We might hit it with some black just to get the pop back on it, but it's pretty dusty. We'll wash it real good and see how much of it comes clean. Yeah, red on the brake light's still in pretty good shape. Lights up nicely. And then we're just going to go ahead and get all the dirt and crap off of this. Check all the contacts. I considered getting LEDs for the dashboard to brighten it up, but I also think that the older incandescent bulbs are a nice soft glow. I kind of dig that, especially on an older truck. So I may just go ahead and check all the bulbs and make sure they work. And if they do, probably leave it like it is. I might go ahead and upgrade to LEDs in the future if it ends up being something that I have trouble with. But for what I plan on using the truck for, I don't think it's going to be an issue. I probably won't be doing a lot of night driving in the first place. So I may just leave it original, call it good enough. But for now, I'm going to go ahead and get all these bulbs out of there. That's it's probably part of the dimness issue there. It's a very dusty bulb. So let's go ahead and tackle that, guys. All right, so I got to looking at the back of the ribbons, and there's a few of the copper connections that seem like they have maybe a little bit of tarnish on them. They're definitely oxidized from being old. And twisting the bulbs in and out will make a good connection seat, but I think I'm going to take a little bit of steel wool and probably just give them a light polish. And then I'll take a little bit of a Q-tip or something and some rubbing alcohol and really just clean and shine up those sections. So we'll get all that cleaned and put back together. I'm not going to pull the whole ribbon set off to get the gauges out. I'm going to just kind of loosely wipe everything down, try and do as little mucking around with this thing as possible. I'm just trying to get it cleaned up a little bit, make sure all of it works, get it back in the truck. If it was going to be like a, I don't know, a full tear down and restoration, I'd probably take and address some of these issues and stuff a little more in depth. But I'm not really trying to go for that. Just trying to get it going and reliable. So we're going to go ahead and just do, some preventative maintenance and then get it looking decent and put it back together. All right, so you can kind of see on here how brown and dark some of these things are right here. So I'm just going to take a little bit of this 4/0 steel wool, and I'm just going to lightly rub. I don't know why I'm rubbing that. Nothing goes in there. We're just going to go ahead and rub some of these little spots down until we can get some of that oxidation wiped off of there. You can see that it comes a little cleaner. And then that should help a lot with the positive and negative sets on these things. We'll get them shined up a fair bit better than they were. And then I bet we probably have some pretty good concentricity at that point. Continuity, not concentricity. All right, so I went ahead and got the back side of that as cleaned as I feel like I need to get it. And now I'm going to go ahead and try and get all these dusted off. There's a fair bit of it that needs help, but I don't want to use any cleaner because I don't want to rub any of those letters off. So I'm just going to take and try and dust this off as good as I can. Let's see. Yeah, that paint's flaky, so I don't want to get all that rubbed off of there. Maybe a little bit of water might help. I also got to be careful not to poke these needles because I definitely don't want to bust the needle. So I want to put a little bit of paint on here. Woo-hoo. So I really need to get it kind of cleaned off because they're faded out. And it'd be nice to be able to see them really good. Have them be that nice bright pop of orange again. So I'm just going to take it easy. Also, it looks like there's a little bit of paint on the hot side that may have been red or orange at one time. Oh yeah, it just flaked off. So I might take a little paint pen and touch that up. Also, my voltmeter looks awfully tinged. So we'll go ahead and dress all that back up, and we'll get that looking fresh. What I'm going to use is this right here. It's a neon orange acrylic paint. It's probably not going to last forever, but it'll definitely be a whole lot brighter. And the color on this thing, it's black light responsive, so it is aggressively orange. My lights are washing it out, but it's a man, it's just about as orange as it gets. It looks a lot like this rag right here. Well, even that looks dull. I don't know. I can't get it to show up right, but you'll have to take my word for it. It looks fantastic. And it looks like just the kind of brightness I'm looking for on these needles. So I'm going to do a little test rub on here and see what happens. We'll try this voltmeter first. Let's see what happens here when I give it a little brush on there. I definitely don't want to have this break off. It looks like it's a lighter orange than what was on there. But it definitely shows up better than the faded out color that it was. It's clumping. I was worried about that. It's a really runny paint. It's a little better. It's a lot better than it was. We'll try a little dab. Might just take 2 coats. That might be what the situation calls for. We'll just do 2 coats of it. It won't have to be perfect. It's just got to look good. Be more visible than it is now. That's really all we need. Ooh. Big pop of orange on this. I need to hold that still on the back. That needle's really trying to spin in there. Oh, I guess I can't hold it from the back. Ooh, now gee, gentle. Don't want to turn it into one of those ones that have no speedometer needle. Ooh. Careful. It almost seems like the paint doesn't want to stick to it. I wonder if I should have rubbed it down with some rubbing alcohol first. It's harder to tell on these little needles, but it's really glaring obvious on this big one that it doesn't want to stick for some reason. Maybe if I would have used an oil-based paint or something. I may have to rethink my approach here. Let's see how that's looking to you guys on this side. Well, the light in here is just absolutely terrible. Let me see here. Let me use one of these Q-tips and this rubbing alcohol, see what happens. It seems like trouble to me. Resist the urge to touch it. I want to so bad. Yeah. We'll just try and get this off of here carefully. I'm not sure what to do about that. Let's see. I guess just wait for it to dry a little. We'll touch this needle up a little bit, see what it does down here. These little needles look infinitely better than they did already. They're all taking the paint pretty well for the size. It's not the prettiest paint job, but it's definitely better than it was. I bet it stands out in the against that black better than that white did. It looks like it does for sure. We'll do the fuel, even though the fuel gauge doesn't work. Maybe it will one day. We'll treat it like it's gonna work. Yeah. Something's up with this paint. It just doesn't want to stick. We'll just do the needle on the speedometer. Maybe that'll be good enough. Yee. It's rocking on me. There we go. Dabbing it maybe. Maybe that's the secret. Better than nothing. That's the secret, really, at the end of the day. All right, well, I think I might call that good on these. I can do a better job with some spray, maybe. That might be something I end up trying out. I don't know. The lights in here really are giving it a funny look. I don't know. Better than it was. I'm going to call that toasted right now. Because it's not getting any better. It's a little closer to how the orange actually looks now that the overhead lights aren't just absolutely beaten down on it. It's a very bright orange. So it's definitely very reflective in the light. I think when I get the gauge lights back in, it'll actually work out pretty good. They're visible enough. I'll tell you that. I'm going to go ahead and I think do a tiny bit of red or yellow or something on here. And then I'm going to do definitely a little patch of red over here on the H. And I don't think I'm going to mess with it too much more after that. I got it all dusted and wiped down. I got all the contacts wiped up. So we'll test the lights and then we'll do the plastic and we'll do this little shroud. And we'll be able to call it done for the day, I think, as far as the dashboard goes. All right. I went ahead and got the red touched up on the voltmeter and on the gas or the temperature gauge. The orange is a little closer to true color over here. It's about like that. And then I went ahead and I looked up the fuel because I wasn't sure if the E maybe had a little bit of red on it. And then I looked at a couple of them, and some of them were just like older pictures, so they were faded out. But then there was a bunch of them where it was like a very pale blue. And so I went ahead and did the blue lines on there. I think it adds a nice little pop of color. The reflective paint on the back, oh no, that was almost detrimental. On the back of here is a blue color too. So maybe it's just a reflection of the light that I'm seeing. But either way, I think it's pretty sharp. It's a nice custom touch either direction. So now that that's finished, at least as finished as I'm going to be with it, I'm going to go ahead and set it here where it's safe until I can get the bulbs put back in it. And then I'm going to tackle this here. Sorry, guys. First thing I have to do is get this washed because there's some duct tape residue on there and it's just really dusty. So before I go working all that dirt into the plastic and making things worse, I'm going to go scrub this up at the sink, and then I'll bring it back and we'll start getting it polished down with some plastic polish. Should make quick work of it. All right, well, I went ahead and got this piece all washed and cleaned in the sink, and then I took some of the rubbing alcohol and really just scrubbed into the texture of this to get all that dirt and grease and just all the stuff that's really gotten into that vinyling texture over the years. Made sure I got into these corners really good. It really helped get everything kind of shined back up. Actually, it's not as dull as it was, and it's nice and clean now. So what I'm going to do is the aluminizing that came on these bezel rings from the factory is all worn off, but I've got this liquid chrome. It's about 10 or 12 bucks on Amazon, so we'll see if it ends up being worth it. I'm going to redo all the lettering, all these little borders, and then I think I'm going to go ahead and even do this little border here. See how that turns out. If I don't like it around the bottom, I might take that back off, but we're going to go ahead and see if we can get some of those letters to pop back off of there. And then that's all cleaned up now. Got it all polished. I went ahead and used some rubbing compound and polish around the very edges of the insides of the gauges just to give it a little more reflectiveness. And then a lot of these little studs, these little rivets were rusted. So I went through and touched them up with a little bit of black paint. So now they actually blend right back into the face now. I'm hoping that ends up looking pretty good once the plastic's polished. I think that's going to be the last piece, that way I don't get it all scuffed up. This paint gets pushed on too hard, it tends to want to roll over the edges, but if you just keep enough pressure on the edge and then just lift back a little bit, it almost creates like a little barrier. And it's like laying a drop of water on top of it, and it flows perfect. It just turns into the best little kind of thickness. All right, so the first thing I'm going to do on this plastic is, you can kind of see how some of the swirls, definitely just being from cleaned out, definitely from being cleaned out over the years, just kind of work themselves in a circular pattern there. There's some oxidation in the middle here. The rest of it's been kept clean, so that definitely helps, but there are some bigger scratches in there. Let's see if I can get those to show up, that are gonna probably cause some issue for polishing. I mean, you can rub polish on there and get it to be a fairly clear and visible kind of thing, but if you really want to get all those swirls and scratches out, you're just gonna have to work them out with a sandpaper or something. similar. I have right here some 2500 wet sanding paper. You can get this stuff at like AutoZone or O'Reilly's, any kind of auto parts store. But I just like to run it underwater, keep constant light drizzle going over it. Or if you got a big plastic tub, you can even just kind of dip it in there and just wet sand it inside of that. It'll end up being real swirly and foggy when you're done. But once you get the 2500, they actually have some 3000 and 5000. It's kind of like a sponge. And I usually take and work those all the way up to 5,000. And then once I've done the 5,000, then I move to like a polishing compound. And it should look really good after that. I'm going to go ahead and get some of the wet sanding started on this at the 2,500. And then I'll let you see what that looks like. And then I'll show you what it looks like after the 5,000 before we do the polish. All right, so this is what you get after you do the 3 to 5, 3 and 5. Nice and smooth. The tiny little scuff's barely visible. But the whole thing's really hazy now. I mean, if you were to put it on, a little foggy. So now that we're at this point, we'll do a little bit of polish with this, and it'll come out crystal clear. All right, well, this is how they turned out after the polish. There's a tiny bit of haze left, but I think I can get that out with the high-speed polisher. And I do think I might end up going back and doing a new oil pressure line. So when I go to do that, I'll just go ahead and be sure to just go back over them. But honestly, that's pretty clear. And then this is how the bezels turned out. They're not as good as factory, but they look a lot better than they did. They catch the light at the right angles. I think that's pretty good. I went ahead and did the bottom. I think it really does add a nice little bit of extra to it. It's a night and day difference on the way it looks. It's kind of hard to tell just looking at it from here. But just the fact that it's all cleaned up and all the vinyl doesn't have all the goo in it anymore. Looks nice and clean across the top. It's even. You can read the words. I think it's pretty good. And this isn't full of dust and it's not all scratched up and covered in tape. I'm about to plug it all back up and then we'll check all the lights and see how those look. Oh, actually, before I do that, I was checking them with a flashlight to make sure that everything on the inside was getting good light. And I noticed that on the temperature gauge, it almost didn't get any light at all. And there's only one bulb, and it's this one back here, that reaches the temperature gauge. All the other bulbs really don't illuminate it because they block off. Or they're blocked off by, just different parts of the inside. Like the upper ones, the light shines right through here and lights up the whole top. This one shines through and lights up the bottom. But the temperature gauge was almost black, no matter where I shined the lights on the back of it. So what I wound up doing was I cut some of this extra foam off of here because it was a full square and it was blocking a lot of the light. And then I bent this corner back really far. And it really, because the corner came clean out to here. So between this square coming up and this square coming across, it blocked off that whole light. So I just folded that back. And now whenever I shine the light in there with a flashlight, it actually lit up the whole top side of the front of the temperature gauge. And I feel like that's going to wind up working a lot better. I still may end up going with LEDs if it doesn't end up being bright enough, but I think it will. We'll find out in just a minute. I think it looks pretty good though. The red, the orange, all of it seems to have turned out. I really like that blue. The more I look at it, the more I'm motivated to get that fuel gauge working again. I think the new sending unit will end up doing that. But I'm going to get all these screws put back in, and then I'll get it set back in the dashboard and plugged in, and then I'll see you guys in just a second. Well, it may not look like much, but the lights are actually on full blast. They dim down. The camera's having a hard time picking them up. If I get really close, you can kind of see. That's almost what it looks like to me. They are pretty dim. But if you're driving at night, which it's pitch black in my building right now, you can see them pretty good. I mean, they're not super bright, but they are easy enough to see that I don't have to sit there and look at them for a long time. So I may end up replacing the bulbs, seeing if that helps. But they do look all right, and they all are working, so that's a good sign. I might end up getting better bulbs, though. It's hard to say. Let me see here. This is what it looks like. Actually, I can go ahead and turn on the light, so I'll turn on the light and you guys can see it better. All right, so all reinstalled in the dash. This is what the cluster looks like. It's got a nice chrome. I got to put the radio levers back on, but honestly, the radio doesn't work, so I got to figure that out if I want a radio. That's clean. It's clear. It's not a bad bit for a day's worth of work. And I already know that all the gauges work. I know the oil temperature works. I know the voltmeter works. The oil pressure did work. It should work when I hook it back up. The only thing that doesn't work is the fuel gauge, and I think once I get that new sending unit and get the grounds all cleaned and put that back in, then I'm sure that will work just fine. So with all of that, it's one step towards being road ready. Some of the important stuff out of the way, and it looks a little better at the end of it. So I think I'm going to call that good. At least good for now. Well, everybody, I'm going to call that a wrap for tonight. If you got anything out of this, go ahead and like the video, and it would help out if you subscribed, because I've got this truck that I'm going to be doing work on. I also have an S10 and a 46 Chevy 3/4 ton that I have running and am getting ready to put a gas tank in, actually. I have the fuel tank ready and cleaned out. I just need to put it back under the seat and run the fuel lines back to the pump. We're going to be checking the pump to make sure it pumps gas to the carburetor, and then I'm hoping that one will hold an idle after that. But that's going to be coming in the future. I'm not sure what I'm going to be doing next on this. I'm thinking I might get the gas tank ready to put a sending unit in, because if I can get the gas tank going on this thing, that's the last big thing this truck needs to be able to start doing test drives and finding out if anything else on it needs immediate attention. So basically fuel. It's always a fuel issue. But you guys stay tuned and keep checking in periodically. Click that notification bell if you want to, and we'll keep getting these things road ready. Take it easy. I'll see you later.